Hey guys, I started making an apple pie and I realized I might as well just throw this out there for you. This apple pie recipe is one that I took out of my Betty Crocker cookbook, and I'm telling you, I'm cheating. I'm using a frozen pie shell. But then you need to take and peel approximately, it might come up to about 6 apples. I'm not 100% sure. But I've already cored all my apples. I have an apple corer, which is really, really nice. If you don't have an apple corer, you're going to have to core them all on your own. But once they're cored, you're just going to need to peel all your apples and get them all chopped up. And it looks like you're probably, for like a 9-inch pie, you're going to need approximately, I don't know, maybe you have to have 6 cups of apples. So depending on the size of your apples, you're going to need anywhere from 6 to 8 apples, depending, like I said, on the size of the apple. So once you get them peeled, then you're going to, and my apple core obviously did not peel this one core this one very well. So I'm going to have to do something about that one, and I'll just come in here and take out this center part right here. Pull that out. Pull the rest of this out here. And sometimes you just have to do that because you just don't really want that core of that apple in there. Makes for not a very pleasant bite. Then it just says to thinly slice them. And I just cut it down the center and then just thinly slice them. And I already put 2 cups in there, so I need 4 cups more. I just slice it down the middle. You can do it section at a time if you want. This sometimes just goes a little bit faster. So just chop your apples up. And then you have nice thin little pieces like this. Just realize that not everybody might peel their apples with a knife. So if not, you can peel it this way with a apple peeler, or you can do it the same this way and just peel your apples this way. I find it's easier for me to peel them the other way because by hand, it's because I was brought up, I didn't use an apple peeler when I was, or a potato peeler when I was a kid. I peeled them all by hand. So you can also do it this way. It just makes a nice mess. And as you can see, this one still has a little off side. Just cut it in half, and as you can see, I've cored these a little while ago, so they're starting to turn brown in the center, but that doesn't matter because they're going to turn that color when you put it in your pie. So you can peel them however you want to, and your pie is going to be baking at a temperature of 425 degrees. So if you haven't set your oven for 425 degrees, you're probably going to want to make sure you do that right now. And as I said before, if you prefer, you can cut it in half this way, and then I find that if I do it together, I can get larger pieces and it goes a little bit quicker. So what we need next is we need 3/4 of a cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. And I use solid nutmeg and grind my own, so. And then a 1/2 teaspoon also of cinnamon and a dash of salt. And then we're going to mix that together. All right, and you're going to mix this together. I like using a fork because sometimes it mixes it better. Grab my spoon, pick up the sugar from the bottom of the bowl. Then we're just going to dump this mixture right into our apples. And we're just going to mix these until all the apple pieces are covered with the sugar mixture. This is the time where you can break apart those pieces of apple that are sticking together. Make sure you lift that sugar up from the bottom of the bowl. There you go. Now we're going to take our pie shell and we are going to put all these apples into our pie shell. I'm going to try to fill nooks and crannies because I actually have a lot of apples in here. Oops, there's some of that sugar that I was talking about that didn't get put in. I want to get those right into those little pieces because I have a lot of apples. Oops. All right. I am making a apple crumb pie, so it is going to have a crumble, like a Dutch crumble on top. And we'll put that together as soon as I get these apples put onto the pie. Make the crumb topping, it tells you to take, where did I put it? 1 cup of flour, and then it says a half a cup of firmly packed brown sugar. And what that means is you need to pack it down tight into the cup so that it's nice and packed. Should come out looking like that. And then it says a half a cup of firm butter. And we have to mix this together, so I'm just gonna pull it out in smaller pieces to start that, because you wouldn't want to stick the whole thing right in there like this, because it will take you forever to crumble it. You're going to want to either get 2 knives out or your pastry blender to blend these together, because you want to bring it to a crumble. There. And then grab your pastry blender and then just begin the whole work of trying to mix these all together. And that butter, if you have a pastry blender, is going to start to, if it starts to clog up the tines of the pastry blender, then just take your knife and, like I've showed before, and just kind of clear those out. Just keep going until you have a nice crumble. A little bit of elbow work. Another reason I think I don't like to bake as much. All this mixing, and I guess you do the same thing when you cook, but I just prefer cooking to baking. I do know how to bake. I do it when I have to, but still not my favorite. I do a 5-course meal over baking. So let's just continue to do this until it comes to a nice crumble. All right, this has come to a nice crumble. See how it's kind of starting to stick together a little bit? That means it's now at a good crumble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pie and I'm going to put it on a parchment or foil lined baking sheet because it might spill over, and then we'll apply the crumble topping. Okay, you could spoon this over, but to be honest, I'm just going to use my hands because this way I'm going to have less of the crumble falling onto the parchment paper. Still going to get some on there, but this butter is what's going to seep down into your pie and actually give your pie that nice buttery flavor. I'm going to try to turn this, but I have it on a rubber mat so that it won't slide around. And I have a lot of crumble that is dropped down onto my mat, so I'm going to now I'm going to take the rest of it and just allow it to have that little crumble texture across the top. Not so matted. Sometimes I mat it, sometimes I just let it crumble. Then we're going to bake this in a 425-degree oven for 50 minutes. And the recipe originally calls for having it in the covered in foil for the last 10 minutes. I like to cover it loosely with foil for the very beginning because that allows it not to brown too much. All right. So I'm going to loosely cover this with foil and tuck it in the oven. This is what I mean by loosely. I mean just tent it. Don't push it over. Just put it over the top, and that'll protect the top from getting super brown. The pie is out of the oven. Starting to bubble over a little bit, so beware of that when you take that out of the oven, that it could still do that.